You're all grown up, but you still want to play in the dirt and make mud pies. Well, you've come to the right place. Here are 5 tips for how to find wild clay near you. Where do you start looking for clay? Well, investigate riverbanks and creek beds, road cuts, and new construction sites. What all of these places have in common is they're all places where lower strata of earth have been revealed. The river erodes the earth, road cuts have to be bulldozed, and new construction sites have to have foundations dug. These are good places to start looking because clay is often buried. With important exceptions, clay is generally found in sedimentary deposits. It's been transported from one place to another by wind or glacier or water. For more info on what clay actually is, you can check out my other videos. So you have a few places to start looking, but what are you looking for? It's not exactly practical to just grab fistfuls of mud every few feet and run tests. To be honest though, I do exactly that because I'm basically just a mustachioed child who likes to squelch earth. But there's a better way. There are a few important visual clues that will often indicate clay. Just like places to start looking, they're not foolproof, but they're a really great place to start. First, color. Pure clay is white, but much more likely to find is clay that has been colored by minerals from its geologic journey. For example, rust has a recognizable red color, and rust is just iron oxide, which is a very common mineral to be found in clays. If you spot an area of exposed red earth, it's a good place to investigate to see if it's clay. Of course, other things can be red, like stone and sand, hence sandstone being red, but I don't think you'll mistake sandstone for clay once you touch it. Colors other than red will indicate other minerals that are often found in clay. So if you see some area that is yellow or tan or gray or blue, it's a good place to look. Just plain dirt or soil with lots of decomposed organic material is often going to be dark brown or black. Although clay can be a darker brown, these other colors are a really great place to start looking for clay. Lighter color clays tend to fire to higher temperatures, and darker clays, which contain minerals that serve as fluxes, will tend to fire to lower temperatures. So if you're driving or walking along, you can kind of spot areas that are likely to have clay by color as well as texture. When clay is totally dry, it's quite crumbly, and it can form lots of cracks when it dries after a rain. If you're looking somewhere that the area has been bulldozed or cut with a backhoe, then clay, when it gets compressed, can be quite smooth. Rock will look hard and rough and will form sheer cliffs like granite does. Clay can't do that. But soil, on the other hand, doesn't hold together well enough to form any sort of cliffs. It's going to lay flat. So if you see some short cliffs that don't look like stone, or if you see these sort of angled ridges, go touch it and see if it's clay. All right, so now you've got a couple of visual clues to help you narrow down your search for clay. When you approach some stuff that you think might be clay, how do you know? Well, it's really quite simple. The defining characteristic of clay is its plasticity, right? So you take a handful of this stuff that you think might be clay, and you slake it or add water to it so it's got the right moisture content. And what you go from there is you roll a coil. If the material that you have will actually form a coil without falling apart, then you know there's at least some clay in it. So make a coil that's something a little bit less than the thickness of your finger and wrap this stuff around your finger. If the material can wrap around your finger without completely breaking, you know you've got at least semi-plastic clay. And the less it cracks where you have wrapped it, the more plastic it's going to be. Make sure that you add enough water to your clay to maximize its plasticity, because if you take a sample and it's very dry, it's going to crack completely, even if it's a very plastic clay. For more tips, you can check out my Instagram. So dirt is not plastic. If you try to roll a coil with it, it'll just fall apart. Sand, of course, falls through your fingers. Rock, you can't do anything with. So clay is identifiable simply by its plasticity. If you can roll a coil, but then it splits and cracks when you wrap it around your finger, That indicates that your clay isn't very plastic, but it might have other uses, like for a decorative slip or even a slip that will melt into a glaze. It might also be a good addition to a different clay body to change its working properties. Future videos will cover all of that. All right, so you found some clay. Now, don't get tunnel vision. Veins of clay that are right next to each other will often have different properties. And so if you take a step back, you might be able to identify different colors of clay all in the same area. So take a small sample of each of them to run tests on and determine what properties the different clays have. It may be that the best clay body you can work with is actually several of these clays all mixed together. Again, for more details on that process, just check out future videos. Bonus tip on searching for clay, and this is arguably the most important. I've had a lot of success looking for clay by researching local geology. You can ask a local geologist. This is especially easy if you have a university near you. You can look up local historical geologic surveys. I've actually found clay near where I live because old surveys from like the 40s showed that there used to be clay mines very close to where I live. These surveys will actually give you information about the type of clay you're likely to find near you as well, which can be really helpful. I've also found clays by asking people who do a lot of digging, like construction workers and a local sand and gravel company. Asking people who are generally knowledgeable about the earth in your area can be a great way to narrow down your search for clay. Plus, you get to interact with really interesting, smart people. Keep in mind that searching for wild clay is essentially no different than hunting for wild animals or foraging for wild edible plants. You always want to be sustainable and responsible. Only do it if you have permission from the landowner. Harvest responsibly, making sure you don't disrupt anything that is ecologically or archaeologically significant. And don't take more than you need. Especially when you're just starting out, take only enough to actually do some tests with. You don't want to take a bunch of buckets of stuff that you're never going to actually use. Stick around this channel for future videos on how to clean and process your clay, how to run tests with it to determine what to do with it, and even some ideas on how you can fire it yourself in a homemade kiln. Thanks for watching and enjoy making mud pies.